Let's go through the vocabulary that came up in conversation during the week. Alberto is otherwise engaged at the moment. He's got a couple of weeks off on paternity leave. Let's not beat around the bush, and get straight to the point. The current tender that the team is working on is quite important. The budget is over 200k grand. If we win this project, it will be good for the company. The contract is worth over 200k. However, it would involve a 3-month changeover period. If we win this tender, we will be happy. If we won this tender, we would be happy. We work, roughly speaking, as PM consultants. Which means, overseeing the whole project, from beginning to end. Arranging the shipping or logistics companies, and sorting out customs. It's a dirty job, but someone has to do it. To sort customs out, that is. Telefonica doesn't want anything to do with installations. If our offer is accepted, we'll get back in contact with them and give them a quote. Then we'll send them the plans to check through. Okay, over to you, JV. What are you responsible for here? I have a wide range of tasks and responsibilities. In fact, I'm due to go to China quite soon. Can I just come in at this point? I'd like to know a little more about what's going on with China. Firstly, we need to brush up on our Chinese. Basically, we need to refresh our knowledge. I saw a program the other day about doing business in China. We need to take advantage of the time, and see as many suppliers as possible. I had a quick look through the schedule, and it looks like we're going to be there for a couple of weeks. What are you working on at the moment, B?
We are working on the audits.
Could you go into a little more detail, please?
The most common problem is inefficient lighting. It's the easiest thing to do. Change a few light bulbs. Next comes the heating and air conditioning. Companies don't usually upgrade or update the whole system all at once. You can also change the water heaters, or boilers, as they are also known. Domestically, they are also referred to as immersion heaters. As David pointed out, if you don't shave, you save money on razors. Smile. Could you bring us up to date with what's going on in Colombia?
We've divided up the country into 2 main sections. Raul's dealing with Colombia, while Ruben has been given the rest. The Colombians are tricky customers. I don't want to say that they're not very reliable or trustworthy, but they seem to be very disorganized. For example, it's difficult to rely on them to turn up on time, and prepared for a meeting. A case in point was the meeting last week. We arranged the meeting several weeks previously. They turned up without the access code to connect the servers.
As Raul was saying, they're quite disorganized, which is putting it mildly. You have to keep chasing them up to make sure they're doing what they should be doing. It's very frustrating. The problem is we get the blame when they don't turn up to meetings.
Anyway, getting back to China, the trip is coming up very soon. We haven't worked out all the details yet. We're still working on it. We're basing operations in Linyi, which is just below Beijing. We are setting up and arranging meetings to have at the fair. Obviously, we're looking for the most cost-effective solution. In many cases you may find the product is cheap but it's rubbish. What we're after is something that's cheap and cheerful, but it does the job. Bueno, bonito y barato, as we say in Spain. Okay, just to check, can you follow what's going on? If you don't follow me, let me know.
Yes, it's a little tricky. I'm struggling to understand.
Don't worry, you will get used to it. I speak at quite a fast pace. Okay, getting back to the tendering department. When tendering for a tender, the most important thing is to comply with the requirements. Over to you, Rick. I'd like you to take the floor. The floor is yours.
I don't know where to begin. It could be political, talking about work. Basically, I'm responsible for making sure that everything is up and running, and stays running. But as Murphy's Law states, if something can go wrong, it will. At least it's never boring. Some aspects stay the same, but new faults are always coming up. The last few days I have been working with B. I've been working out the budget. I have a backlog of work to catch up on. Speaking of politics, the Scottish referendum is similar to Catalonia. It was a very close vote. 50-50. Personally, I think all of this talk about separating from Spain is a smokescreen to hide other problems. Anyway, I'd like to find out my colleagues' opinions. Do you think the Catalonians need more autonomy?
On the contrary. I think we need to internationalize, to give them more power. Next week we're going to kill two birds with one stone. Ricky is going to bring us up to date with the different ways of selling solar energy. I should point out that the average person on the street doesn't know the expression photovoltaic or PV. You would have to call them solar panels and solar plants. Changing the subject again, I'm thinking of putting Raoul in charge of PMI. Incidentally, have you heard of PMI? Nope, I've never heard of it.
Yes, it sounds familiar. It rings a bell. Aren't they the body which is responsible for regulating and maintaining worldwide standards?
Yes, they provide a recognized framework. The important thing about the CAPM is that you can go on to prepare the PMP exam later. The main criteria that you have to fulfill for the CAPM is to have 1,500 hours of project work. Some colleagues of mine did a course to prepare the PMP exam. It was quite expensive. You have to pay a minimum of €500, and on top of that, you also need to pay to become a member of the PMI, to sign up. Okay B, could you fill us in on the mini windmill project?
We still have some paperwork to deliver, the deadline is at 1 tomorrow.
I have been speaking with JM, he's a little worried. He's just a little concerned.
Don't worry, the problem is under control. We only have one more document to send. Let me give you some advice. A piece of advice. I think we should revise the previous tenders, go through them and find out what the requirements are. We need to have the report finished by the end of the week, and we're running a little late. We don't want to have the same problems as last time. Switzerland is a case in point. They had a problem with the customs officials, and we had to fly to Switzerland. I have to deal with that every day. Cross-border controls. Documentation. To comply with regulations. Everything needs to be legal and above board. One of the main problems is that the generators weigh over 1,000 kilos. What's the biggest one? 125 kVA. If you don't mind me asking, how old are you? 48. You don't look a day over 70. He's winding you up, taking the piss. Pulling your leg. He's joking, you look quite young for your age. Okay, slowly but surely, we're going to increase your familiarity with phrasal verbs and idioms. Let's finish up. Remember, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. We all need to be on the same wavelength. I look forward to seeing your presentations next week.